Welcome to another episode of the DGD podcast. Robert Reynolds, Kobe Pierce, Juan Daniels will be here a little bit late. So if you're in the brigade, you know what to do when he comes on. Um, so obviously, last episode we discussed and analyzed the offense for both Georgia and Ohio State. We're going to do that, but we're going to flip it on the defensive side of the ball. So we're going to talk about that. Um, Obviously, with last episode, we talked about how over the weekend Mike Leach um, had a situation arise. So obviously, just an update if you haven't heard already, Mike Leach passed away. Um, Honestly, he'll be a guy that I think college football will sorely miss. I really do. You look at the pirate situation, the candy corn comments, marriage comments, and advice. Like you name it, there's so I feel like even people outside of Mississippi State and Washington State, people outside and throughout the entirety of college football, whether regardless of your fan base, it seems to have a good memory of him somehow. Don't really know a lot of people. I haven't heard a lot of people, if you will, that have bad things to say about him. So, uh, prayers to his family as they go through this situation. Um, but let's break this down. Let's break this down here. So obviously, we're talking a lot of defense. Last time we talked about offense, there's a key factor for Ohio State's offense since the last episode that we have found out that will not be playing in the Peach Bowl, and that is Travion Henderson, and that's a big one. That's a big one. So we'll talk about Georgia's defense and how they have to game plan and things like that. Um, Obviously, we'll try to start with Georgia, kind of game plan against it. Defensively, Georgia, I think now I think Georgia can neutralize the running offense for Ohio State. Not saying they don't have bad running backs, but without Evan Pryor, without Travion Henderson, officially Travion Henderson, the the running back depth is in serious question. Need I say more? Georgia, plus we know how Georgia works to stop the run first. Making Ohio State one dimensional, I feel like will be significantly easy, or I should say easier. What do you think about that, though, Kobe?
Yeah, I think that all you have to really look is that second half against Michigan to kind of tell you that, Michigan kind of had the same game plan it had last year. You'll see a very similar game plan um, for Georgia is that constrictor of, don't let them run the ball, make them throw the ball. And when they do throw the ball, break on the ball quickly, make the lanes crowded, and don't give easy reads and easy throws. Um, with Trayvon Henderson out, it just adds a lack of depth. I mean, not saying that it's the end all be all for Ohio State's run game, but at some point, they've been a two back system almost all year, very similar to kind of how we run by committee. Well, all of a sudden the committee shrinks, and you're asking somebody who doesn't normally carry the ball more than 12 times a game to possibly carry it 24 times a game. I mean, that's a big jump. That's just a lot more snaps, a lot more reps that someone's not used to. And then you never know. I haven't dove in quite this heavy, but like I don't know what back is normally in there on passing downs. Like, does he tend to be there out of the backfield, like swing pass back? Does he tend to be there, screen back? Is he really good at pass pro? Does he block blitzing linebackers very efficiently? Those are all things that happen when you lose somebody like that. Ohio State's going to have to adjust. And down two starters is not a good start to your college football playoff hopes.
No doubt about that. I think so. When if we take a quick look at the running back situation, excuse me, they have Dallin Hayden, which is a true freshman. I think that is a guy. That kid has came on strong. You have Mayan Williams, which is a redshirt sophomore as well, to take on the load of handling this defense that we have. I'm curious to see if those two running backs being out, how how we game plan defensively, right? I think Georgia's motive is to stop the run and force a team to be one dimensional. But the thing about Ohio State is Ohio State predominantly focuses on passing the ball, and they're doing a good job at that. So while you are able to maybe neutralize the run, right? Ohio State has to make Georgia respect the run. But I think there's one glaring difference for me between these two defenses, and to me, I think it's the amount of bodies needed to stop the run. If you take Georgia throughout the entirety of the season, I would say at most we've seen 7 in the box, and that's basically short yardage slash goal line, maybe 8 at that point. But if you're looking at just in general, and it's going to be a 3rd and short or something like that, right there, Georgia can typically hold their own with 6. And what that does defensively, it makes everyone's job easier because at that point it allows 5 defensive backs, right? It allow and linebackers or whatever in the back end to cover. So you're basically taking 5 DBs, if you will, linebackers slash DBs, and you're accounting for what at most 4 maybe. So or if you go empty, then you're looking at 5 on 5. Or sorry, you'll take back and do 6 on 5, right? It provides a mismatch if you have the ability to do that. And Georgia's done an excellent job at using 5 and 6, personnel, right, players, if you will, to stop and neutralize the run games for opposing offenses. What are your thoughts on that in regards to what Georgia does compared to if you take Ohio State having to put 7, 8 bodies in to stop the run again, at least based off of what I saw against Michigan. What are your thoughts on that, though?
Yeah, I would tell you that I would imagine after 2.5, 3.5 weeks of practice for this game, that you will probably not see Ohio State just line up and run the ball at you. I don't even know if they will. I mean, of course, they'll practice it some, but I don't know how much that will even be in their game plan, especially with him hurt now. I could see them trying to go more of the Oregon route, which, I mean, Oregon early in the season didn't have a lot of success doing it, but it was open a few times. But that jet motion, like have tight end attached, um, tight end attached right, one guy out to the right and 2 out to the left, bring the guy from the right in motion running across the formation, and then at the snap of the ball, basically run the swing pass back to the running back that way with the tight end or a pulling guard out in front to block. I think that they'll do that. They'll try to run you to the perimeter and see if they can't catch you sleeping in man or something running, and then you run it back the other way. I just don't see them lining up and going, our 5 linemen plus tight end are better than your 4 linemen plus 2 linebackers. I don't see, unless they think they see something that they can exploit from that. I see it being a lot of motions and a lot of perimeter screens or swing passes or something just to try to get the ball out in space and hope you can make one man miss and get basically that short passing game. They talk about it in the spread and then especially the speed spread like Oregon. That passing game is an extension of the running game. That swing pass that just got 4 yards is no different than if you'd have handed the ball off and gotten 4 yards. I really think you'll see Ohio State try to do that, at least early.
Well, the issue with that though is defensively, Georgia has done an excellent job. They're one of the best teams in the country in regards to open field tackling, right? Tackling in space. We saw it against Tennessee. That's something that I think people need to take in mind is, yeah, I don't know how well they can hit deep shots. I'm not saying they can't, so please don't misinterpret that somehow. But to combat the quickness of our defense, I think you have to kind of start slow But I think this is the key here, though, right? We talk about neutralizing, the run game for Georgia, right? When you do that, now you can kind of sit there and kind of pin your ears back, if you will, and go. And with that, what that does, it affects the timing of the receivers and the routes, right? So when we see things like that, obviously the way to combat that, and we saw it all year, is teams getting the ball out of their hands fast, like you mentioned. But at the same time, Georgia is excellent at stopping, you know, broken tackles. We don't really see a lot of them, if you will.
Well, you take a risk. You combat good defense by speed, quick passes, slants, swing passes, all those things, which is great when it works. But you come out on first down and you throw that swing pass to a running back, and Christopher Smith runs up field and tackles him for a loss of two. You've just ran a play really quickly to lose 2 yards on what you were trying to just run the ball, get a quick four, and kind of go a little tempo. And all of a sudden you're looking around going, okay, that didn't work. And not only did that not work, we're now in worse shape than we were. So it'll be interesting to see. I still think that's got to be their plan, though. I mean, I don't think that I think, especially because their two tackles, I think I saw, were both the AP
Yep.
second team All Americans.
Paris Johnson Jr., excuse me, is your left tackle, and your right tackle is Dewan Jones. Paris is a junior, and Dewan is a senior.
Dewan's the one that's just like huge, isn't he? He's like massively
I
like
believe that's him.
like
Yeah, I believe
Isaiah
so.
Wilson, just like
79, number 79 is, so according to their depth chart, it looks as if he's, let's see, 6'8", 359. Kid's
yeah,
kid's a hoss
yeah.
at playing right tackle at that. Which leads me to a good question here. From a defensive game plan, when you have two elite tackles, how do you combat that, right? How do we combat having
Well, so
the
you'll see.
excellent tackle play?
This will be a little nugget for everybody at home. So you may see and may notice, like when the defensive line aligns, sometimes you may see Jalen Carter or Nazir Stackhouse or somebody, they will signal uh to everybody else on the field kind of what they think the play is going to be, whether they think it is going to be a run, whether they think it's going to be a pass. There are things that they watch in film that are tells, they are tells of,
Telltale signs, if you will.
yeah, yeah, of kind of, okay, when Paris Johnson is, when his feet are, toes are even, they're going to run the ball. When he's, got his left leg kicked back, he's going to pass that early. The quarterback has his mouthpiece in, or the running back has his mouthpiece. Just all, there's no telling. It's different for every team. But
Well, the
I would
minute
say,
details on that, though, is where Georgia's it really exceeds. So they look at any. What there was? Oh my goodness, South Carolina. It was South Carolina. There, I forgot the receiver's name and number, but he had dreads. When that guy came in, I want to say one of our DBs immediately knew what was going on, and he blew that shit up. It was like he's getting the ball, and he made a break for it, stopped the outside screen, broke the play up for a loss. And
yeah.
it's the small things like that that makes this defense the way it is, and that elite of a defense.
Yeah.
It's that attention to detail.
So you're going to run. I think you're going to try to confuse the tackles as well as you can. You're going to run games. You're going to run where the three technique attacks the tackle and the end loops, or vice versa. We run those anyways most every game, especially on third down. Um, but you're going to try to give them, a blitzing corner, blitzing linebacker. You're not going to just line up. It's not the team anymore last year where you're just going to line up that outside linebacker or that defensive end and look at the tackle across from you and say, go win. You're gonna give them some opportunities to do that. I mean, don't get me wrong. They don't have zero faith in our guys, but they know that with Nolan gone, you know, all the guys you lost last year. I mean, the guys we have this year will get there eventually, but I still think that they're going to run those games to try to put them in good situations.
No, I think you have to, right? I think that's a good transition as well. So, looking at the offense of Ohio State, what's the best way to attack this defense? Because it seems like this defense is so diverse. It's one of these things where, as a Georgia fan, you feel confident that your team, in almost every facet of the game, if you will, can you know can succeed, if you will, defensively. But if I'm Ohio State, what I have to do, and I say that I have to do, is test the cornerbacks with your receivers. Get the ball into your best playmakers' hands as often as possible. Now, at the same time, if you look at right Marvin Harrison Jr., there's without a doubt one of if not the best receiver in the country this year. Period. There's no question about that. Emeka Egbuka is another receiver that is excellent. So I'm looking at that right there as a potential matchup if I'm taking that.
I
But
hate
do
one's
you
not watching. Can I get that receiver name one more time?
Emeka Egbuka?
There we go. We were impressed. Remember the other day we were talking about quarterback last names.
Yeah, it's impressive. Feels like it, man. Saying these names are interesting. I think the key though, right? Like, how do you go about trying to find those mismatches, right? Because my expectation or my anticipation, excuse me, about butchered that real bad. Um, I would expect Keely Ringo to be on Marvin Harrison. However, it also wouldn't surprise me if Georgia plays defensively similar to Tennessee, where you actually had Lassiter playing to the field all the time. Or, you know what I mean? Like where Lassiter was actually on Hyatt, which surprised a lot of people. But ultimately, it worked out well because Tillman and Ringo had that kind of that blend. If I'm Ohio State defensively, I'm just trying to stretch the field vertically. Now, at the same time, we've talked about trying to hit the short game, but it might be worth trying to sit there, hit some rub routes in between, different things like that to try to get with double moves potentially, or just the receivers are good. But I think you're going to see Ohio State try to stretch the field vertically, and if they're doing that successful early on, it might actually open up the run game that they're trying to get done. Um, that if I'm Ohio State, that's what I'm trying to do because that when you've got Jalen Carter along your offensive line or defensive line for Georgia, and from an offensive line you're going against that, your guard and center are going to have a fun day, if you know what I mean. So you might see a double team on him from a guard center combo or whatever, but that also opens yourself to be vulnerable to whether it be a wraparound right from a defensive end wrapping around to come in and fill a gap or something, right? If you occupy the center, or have a linebacker come in, disguise blitz or simulated pressure, and have somebody else come in. Maybe even a cornerback blitz, depending on if we can get enough pressure or Georgia can get enough pressure off the edge. You might see us. I honestly don't think I see that happening as much. But I think if all offensive line has to play an A+ game all 4 quarters. Right? If I think Paris Johnson and I think Dewan, uh, Dewan Jones can handle their own, if you will. But I think we know this: the interior is where it's going to get tricky because of Jalen
Well,
Carter.
I didn't watch a lot of the game with Michigan and Ohio State, but I remember last year, between Ajobo and the other defensive end, I know they had a lot of sacks. They got the quarterback.
Ajabo and
Yeah,
Hutchinson.
they
Yeah,
they affected the quarterback a lot. I'm not sure if that was always the case as much this year. Hello, Juan.
he's here.
What's going on?
Not much. You called us in the right time. We're talking about Georgia's defense and how offensively Ohio State, what they should do to try to attack this defense? So let's do this. Since Juan just got here, Juan, I want to ask you this question. We're jumping in hot and heavy with you. If you're Ohio State's offense, how are you attacking this defense to be successful and have a shot to win this game?
Well, at first, it was going to be one of those things that they were going to have to establish a running game, and now you got a running back that's out, so that's going to be tough. You're just going to have to play on the perimeter. You're just going to have to attack those cornerbacks, and mainly Keely Ringo, and I would just rotate guys and alternate them. Your drops are going to have to be quick. I think we talked about it, earlier on Monday. Is you're almost going to have to go to a Tom Brady type style. It's just catch and throw. Catch and throw. You're going to have to get some guys in the, in the slot and just hope that they can, make a guy miss. Outside of that, if you do any play action, if you're sitting back there trying to read, you're going to get absolutely mangled.
Well, I think, Juan, to that point, you talked about play action. With C.J. Stroud, right? We don't, Georgia has seen its share of mobile quarterbacks that are okay with running, comfortable with running, right? C.J. Stroud can do that, but it has been something that he hasn't really practiced that much this year, right, during games. Ultimately, from a defensive standpoint, to me, if I'm a defensive end, I'm looking at that as, all right, I know my launch point, right, because it doesn't necessarily change that much. So I think you have to see, you mentioned play action. I think you have to do some kind of like a quick RPO type play action. I don't think you're going to be able to do your, like drawn out long, like medium long term style build up using a play action. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to do like a fake handoff, like legitimate fake handoff, like you would see in NFL or anything. But it's got to be quick with it, right? I think that's what's going to happen. I'm not going to say that we're going to see RPO, but if you try to do play action, it's going to be something where C.J. Stroud is facing frontward. He's not going to have his back turned, in my opinion. And you're going to see that quick style right there. That's just my opinion. What do you have to say, Kobe, Juan? What do y'all have to say about that?
I think it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier, and like Juan just said again. If you see an RPO, it's either going to be a quick slant where he thinks that the receiver can get inside of the linebacker. Basically, just not going to be able to cover it quick enough before they get 6-7 yards, or it's going to be that classic like he's got one read at the end here, and he's got basically a swing pass with the wide receiver. It's like a screen, like a little screen pass outside, where he reads that one guy almost pre-snap and then pulls it and throws it directly to the perimeter very quickly. He's not going to be able to sit there and long read an RPO. It's almost going to have to be predetermined for him.
Juan, so the 633 DGD left you a comment requesting
I saw that for Amy, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. This is for Amy. Just believe. We are here praying for you. You don't have any bigger fans than this brigade. So and all these guys on this podcast. So Amy, just believe.
We're not worthy. The goat has spoken. The goat has spoken. Yeah. But as we get back into talking the schematics and things like that, if I'm Georgia defensively, how I'm attacking this offense, I think we'll kind of use this as a transition tool as well into like our X factors for Georgia's defense, right? If you see some kind of play action, I think, like you said, Kobe, you probably see like a quick slant, but you got to be careful for sluggo routes, man, because if you're not careful, our DBs could get cooked by that if you're not careful, especially depending on how they work those offensive concepts. But I think you look at Chris Smith being able to decipher that stuff quickly. He's been very, I would say, actually exceedingly excellent at just ciphering out and breaking down everything as it happens. We saw it last year, right? The kind of the quick RPO style pass, right, against Clemson. Just example there. So I think Chris Smith could be lined up to have a great game if they want to try to do those kind of plays.
I just think too, when we were talking earlier, and even that right there makes me think, besides that first drive of Georgia Tech, and even that had a big play that hit, Ohio State's game plan has got to be what LSU did, what other teams have done to you. Even when Tennessee scored their touchdown, they're looking at big chunk plays. They're not thinking they're going to line up and get 3 or 4 yards, 4 or 5 yards a play and just march down the field on you. They're not. They're looking at that, like you're saying, a slant and go, a broken play where CJ Stroud, rolls out right and extends the play. That happened. Missouri should have been a touchdown if it was a better throw. It was a touchdown on a 4th down against LSU. I mean, we've put that on film that if a play breaks down, we don't always have good eye discipline of all of a sudden everybody's flat-footed looking instead of going, oh, man, Marvin Harrison is running 30 yards behind me with his arm up in the air looking like Juan Daniels. Just throw it. Just throw it.
Yeah, and they're going to have to take some shots. I think that they're going to take some shots. You look at that Kent State game. I mean, they took some shots on us. And, we missed one. I mean, they, overthrew one. And that could have been bad, for us in that game. But, if I were Georgia's defense, I'm going to take that same approach as I took, for Tennessee. I don't see Ohio State being as potent as Tennessee's offense. Yes, they have some great receivers. Tennessee had great receivers. They got a great quarterback. Ohio State has a pretty decent quarterback. But, you take that same approach. I mean, they completely shut Tennessee down. And all you heard about is this is the next 2019 LSU. Then, of course, statistically, you look at Ohio State, they're averaging 55 points a game. But again, who are you averaging these points against? They're not there. This is not, Georgia. This is not the SEC that you're averaging these points against. So they take that same approach. I think that they're going to be fine. And then just being physical up front, that's going to be the biggest.
I want to take a quick pause for just a second. So I was seeing some news, some Georgia high school news. Jeremy Hecklinski out of Walton, 2024 QB.
Yep.
I think that kid's going to be special. He committed to Wake Forest, so he's coming up to my backyard. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I know that's obviously a little bit off the topic, but
he's a double reclass. I mean, I think he's a twice reclass. So you have some of those that come out that reclass twice.
I thought that was interesting to note because I was just sitting there. Jalen Hyatt also is declaring for the draft, so he will not participate. Just wanted to make a quick couple newsworthy comments, if you will. I thought that was interesting to see Hecklinski commit to Wake Forest.
Tillman and Hyatt both gone.
So any Tennessee fan, now we're going to look at you like, all right, so now you don't have those receivers. What you got?
Yep. No quarterback really coming back in. It's going to be tough sledding for you guys. This was your chance. This is your chance.
You blew it.
You blew it. Kane Athens is the number 1 team and blew it.
You think they stick with was it Joe Milton from Michigan, or you think they try to go portal dipping again?
Well, they got Nico coming in.
That's right. That is right.
We're gonna make this quick because I ain't trying to talk Tennessee right now. But
Did
I
you
will
see
say
that he may be able to play in the bowl game?
Yeah,
the redshirt rules.
It'll
count as 1 game, but you're allowed to play 4 and still redshirt.
Yep.
Interesting.
That's cool. That's actually really cool. Just by the way.
So since y'all are in Georgia, I saw that tomorrow I think it is. They're having a meeting about the state title games. I was seeing a bunch of folks like Rusty and Brooks Austin were sitting there basically just like, dude, Arthur Blank, open your damn stadium up for this, because it was like a torrential downpour, and you're playing state title games.
Yeah, and it's been like that the last 4 years or so. So the 3 that Ashton played in, I mean, it was foggy, it was cold, it was raining, it was just nasty out.
It's just not a good time to play football in Georgia.
It's not defensively, and it's a big advantage.
Or cold or rainy. That's what the fog comes from. Is one day it's 70 degrees and the next day it's 45, and everybody's like.
And then at least for that state championship, it's an even playing ground, because I mean there are some teams that play better in the rain. It gives them a huge advantage being in the rain or being in the fall. Last year we played Langston Hughes, and you saw Langston Hughes. They play this year. They lit up the scoreboards this year. I mean, just all over the place. They're a huge passing team. Well, last year when we played him in the fog, they literally had a guy that was wide open and could not adjust and couldn't find the ball. Had he caught that pass, we probably lose the game. So, think about it. If you're in a regular stadium and that same play happens, it's a different, it's a different ball.
Different outcome complete. I think that was the video. I think I saw a video clip of Juan Daniels running around in the end zone when they missed
when they missed that field goal. That was me. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a video of Mr. Juan Daniels running around sweatpants and all.
Yes, sir. Man. Yes, sir. Going crazy.
I remember that. I sent that to you. I was like, hey, I think I see something here that's notable.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So as we kind of transition back into the defensive analysis portion of this, let's talk X factors. We'll each, let's just do this. Kobe, who would be your X factor for Georgia's defense in the Peach Bowl? And give a quick discussion and a quick rundown as to why you think that too.
X factor would definitely be, Keely Ringo to me is an X factor in the fact that you see versus Tennessee, he played really, really well. He played like a first-round cornerback against Tennessee. If he plays like that against Ohio State, it'll be on. I'll take anybody that wants to throw the ball if he plays that way. If he doesn't, so that to me is if he plays as good as I know he can play, we will be dangerous out there because they're going to give Kamari the safety help most of the time. So it's going to leave him on the island. And if he wins the island, I mean, they'll just have trouble throwing the ball all day at that point.
Juan,
who would your X factor be?
Give me Malachi Starks. I mean, he's going to have to be all over the field. He's going to be having to help out the Keely Ringos and anybody else. But he's going to have to play big. I mean, there's, you can take that freshman tag away from him. I mean, he's been playing big all year, making some big time plays. But what a better time to come through and be big like he did in that first game against Oregon, in the same place. So I just think that he's just got to be heady. He's got to be smart. He's got to be aggressive, and then just do what Malachi does. And again, continue to establish himself as the leader of that defense.
I'm gonna go a different route. Y'all both are hitting on DBs. I'm going down to the line of scrimmage, but it's not going to be a name that you think. Michael Williams. He's going to have his work cut out for him because if I'm not mistaken, you're going to see him lined up against Paris Johnson. And with that being said, I think he can make or break the willingness for them to throw the ball down the field. If his pass rush is where I think it is right now, and he can get around, right, or do these things to get around Paris Johnson or DeWand, if it depends on what side he comes from. If he can generate some pressure from the outside, forcing him upwards, forcing C.J. Stroud up into the pocket, right, where Jalen Carter might be just waiting for you. I think that will cause Ohio State to have a long day. But I also think that he has to play sound in containing or setting the edge. Because while we haven't seen a lot of it, C.J. Stroud can run the ball. And when that happens, when he runs the ball, that charges up that Ohio State offense to a level that I don't know if we want to see, if you will. So if you make his life uncomfortable, right, on December 31st, force him to step up, if you will, right? I think if you can successfully get some pressure coming off the end and forcing C.J. Stroud to step up and not want to really and not have anywhere to go, contain him in that pocket, I think that could make or break the game defensively. And it also might not let him have the time necessary to hit those routes down the field. Now, I think at the same time, Chris Smith could have a ball game as well. I think if, like we had talked about, if we see a lot of short game type plays, right? If we start to see a lot of short game to open up, I think that's where he's going to excel. And obviously, he has some of the best closing speed that I've seen from the safety position in a good amount of time. So he can have a game, make an impact on those kind of plays early. But I'm going Mykel Williams. I think Jalen Carter. I think Jalen Carter is almost an honorary mention for all of us unanimously, because if he creates the havoc that we should expect in the interior, like I said, it could honestly be complimentary, right? Like if he generates the pressure to kind of move, make him move around, then you look at a guy like Mykel Williams, you look at a guy like Chaz Chambliss, maybe they get home, right? Maybe they get home. Um, y'all have any other names that we may have missed before we kind of transition on?
Nope.
Think we're good here. All quiet on the home front. So we're going to take a quick break, and on the flip side of the break, we're going to talk about Ohio State's defense and some kind of similar situations here for the Ohio State Buckeyes. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, folks. Now we're talking Ohio State Buckeyes. Defensively, the way I look at it, they're led by JT. Let me see if I go. JT Tuamalau. I butchered that.
Yeah, I was going Timbiaka Batuka, but
Timbiaka Batuka.
Yeah.
Yeah, not JT Tuimoloau. I think that's a big name there. They also got a redshirt freshman, Jack Sawyer. They've been recruiting some high profile edge guys, and I feel like this defense is kind of defensive end driven, if you will. I think this defense is, I would say, above average to a really, really good team ultimately rushing the passer. They're built to rush the passer. But with that, there also comes some flaws, if you will. So if we look at JTT, Jack Sawyer on the ends, you have Ty Hamilton, right? You have Ty Hamilton, Teron Vincent playing in the interior. Number 9, I think this is going to be a key here. On the edge, they have Zach Harrison, number 9. Kid has some of the best get off coming off the edge I've seen that we've played for sure. So I think that's some. But to me, though, the one takeaway from this Ohio State defense is they seem kind of small. With that being said, if you're Ohio State defensively, I think what you have to do is try to contain Stetson Bennett. Georgia's ability to operate and execute multitude of ways, running the ball, right? Running the ball, quick game, set up for deep plays. You can hit it. Georgia's offense can hit home a lot of different ways. But I think the key is to make Stetson make bad decisions. And if you utilize the edge to do that, I think that is where Ohio State could benefit defensively. What are y'all's thoughts on Ohio State's defense overall, and maybe some kind of quick talking points in regards to schematics, things like that? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure maybe it isn't JT, but I thought it was. I thought JT and Sawyer were in the same class because didn't they land like number 1, number 2?
They are in the same class. They're both redshirt freshmen. Yep, they are both redshirt freshmen.
They're like, you just got to realize they're the number 1, number 2 player respectively coming out of high school at their position. Both went to Ohio State. They've kind of recently been known for creating good edge rushers and transitioning to that. It'll be a challenge for our tackles. It's a fun challenge. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Broderick Jones is a first round, maybe second round talent. Or McClendon's a second to third round talent probably if he gets to play. And Amarius Mims, who hasn't really been challenged, kind of coming in as that sixth man sometimes. It'll kind of let him know where he stacks up being the number 1 or number 2 tackle in his class. So, the nice thing about over-aggressive pass rushers is they only seem to be effective against our team when they know we have to pass. If we're in 3rd and 12 and they know we're having to drop back, that's hard for any offensive tackle. If it's 3rd and 3 and we're about to throw the ball, that's just kind of a whole different game at that point. And then the big question, and I don't know, I'll have to go back and watch them play Michigan, is everything's fun and games until Devin Willock is pulling around the corner and we're running counter.
Hit that tray,
And you're
maybe
standing
even a
there,
tray counter.
and you're standing there going, "Oh, I have to, attack him with my upfield shoulder and impact him in a way that they're not going to be able to run the ball." That's just, it's all fun and games for a defensive end like that until we're running power, counter, pulling guards, things like that, chipping you with Darnell Washington. I mean, if you think you're going to just get a free release on our tackle, I mean, you're going to get chipped off the line possibly every single time. Whoever is on, if Warren is healthy or if Mims has to play, I would imagine that side is going to get chipped religiously.
Yeah, I was about to say, Mayhem Matthew, welcome to the brigade. I think that's something interesting there too. The ability for Georgia to have two tight ends that are okay and comfortable with blocking, if you will. We've saw Darnell. We saw Darnell. He has laid many a linebacker and ends to waste, if you will, with chip blocks. Um, and that's, in my opinion, I think that's something that's definitely worth noting. There's also a name that I think that you have to account for if you're Georgia's offense. But if you're Ohio State, you need Tommy Eichenberg to play an excellent game, and you need to be as physical as you've ever been against a Georgia team offensively that is willing and comfortable with being extremely physical and just will run it down your throat if you allow it. Tommy Eichenberg, leading the charge of the linebacker core, has to be physical, has to come in, feel, be quick with it in regards to analyzing things. You have to have him playing an excellent game, but you also hope that your interior can kind of create some movement, if you will. Like I said, Ty Hamilton, Teron Vincent, you need these guys to create some movement to help your outside ends. Make sure that they can get home, because if you have to sit there and condense yourself with getting pressure from the interior, that's something that I think can be beneficial for Ohio State defensively if they have these guys on par. Juan, you look like you're about to say something.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. You talked about Eichenberg. You've got Steel Chambers. The what makes Ohio State successful is their interior gets a lot of pressure on the line, and those guys are able to run free all game for the most part. And so that's just going to be one of those things too that we're going to have to get to that next level. If we're not able to get to that next level to get on Eichenberg or get on to Chambers, then we're going to have a long day, and they're going to be making some plays and then doing a lot to disrupt our running game. However, they just were outcoached against Ohio State. I mean, they were outcoached. I think Ohio State did more preparing for a running CJ Stroud in the receiving attack than they did for the running game. And basically, for Michigan's passing game, and they just did not really truly put a whole lot of stock in their running game, and they just got the ball ran right down their throat. So they were out coached, and so if they had trouble stopping, Michigan, you can best believe without a Corum too. So think about what it would have looked like if Corum were there. We've got four backs in the backfield that are just ready to absolutely eat, and that's what they're going to do.
And when you watch that game, to me too, especially early, Ohio State's defensive discipline is poor. I mean, you look at how many wide open receivers Michigan threw to early for big plays, or how many long runs they kind of hit off early. That's just, when you go down and you score and you're Ohio State and you come back out on defense and all of a sudden on second down a tight end gets lost behind all your DBs and goes for 60, that back to square one we go. 7-7. We worked so hard for this touchdown, and our defense basically lost a guy to give up a touchdown. They didn't even make them earn it. So that'll be interesting to see if they're a little bit more disciplined in like what they're doing, or if they're still kind of looking lost in the back end.
I think the main thing though is this: when you compare, or when you go back and you look at the film and the game that we saw against Michigan, the main flaw to this team is the inability to open yourself up to stop. Like Kobe, we talked about this before Juan came on. Georgia has the ability to use six guys and stop the run. Ohio State had to load the box 7 and 8, which allowed them to get really exposed, in the passing game, right? Because they had to allocate that many bodies to stop the run. The Georgia offense has the unpredictability, right? The predictability scale is we can do multiple things, but then also we talk about these linebackers. It's going to be interesting to see what Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington, how Ohio State will try to game plan those guys, because you can't just solely focus those guys out, because that leaves Lab McConkey, AD Mitchell. Guys, AD Mitchell will probably be back, and I would assume a lot healthier than what we saw against Georgia Tech or LSU. Excuse me. That right there, that just creates the issues, right, from a schematic standpoint. If you're Ohio State's defensive coordinator, though, what is your game plan in regards to trying to neutralize a problem? What would it be? Like, what are you more worried about if you're Ohio State's defensive coordinator?
I think the fact that we can do whatever we want whenever we want. I think any good defensive coordinator wants to limit you. I think that in his eyes, he would love to stop you from being able to run the ball and make Stetson throw the ball 45 times to beat you. I think that would be, that's what you've seen us do that for years. And in years past, historically under Kirby, if you've made us throw the ball, I think more than 35 times, Kirby's like, or at one point he was like 1-5, something like that in his career. I don't think that is the same anymore. I don't think that if you limit our run game and make us just throw the ball, used to, I think we would squirm. I think now with Stetson, if AD's back healthy, if Arian's fully healthy, if Brock, Darnell, Rosemary, Jack Saint, if everybody's good to go, I don't know that we can't just do what I said earlier and use the quick pass game as an extension of the run game if you do limit our running abilities.
So I think this is a problem that I think most teams have. Georgia's going to, I think, from a game plan, Georgia's going to attempt to run the ball down their throat, because I just think that this is me thinking, Juan, you're probably in his head. Kirby's looking at this team, and he's just thinking that, dude, they're not physical. Let's test their physicality early, often, an entire quarter, or every quarter of every game, all this game. I think you see them try to, assert their will, right, offensively, run it down their throats, force them to allocate resources into the box, and then that's when you start to see things like maybe a tight trips bunch with a guy coming, get the running back out in space, things like that, levels concepts. Allocate those resources and then start hitting passes, right? If I'm a defensive coordinator, one of the things that I think you cannot sleep on, Stetson Bennett, his ability to run the ball, because you want to sit there, you want to focus on stopping Kenny McIntosh in their run game. You want to stop Brock Bowers, right? Everybody knows Brock Bowers, Mackey Award winner. Let's stop him. Let's try to see if we can contain maybe man-to-man on the outside. Your pass rushers, though, your Ohio State's pass rushers, they they are susceptible from a body angle standpoint. They're so they're so determined to get to the quarterback that they give up body angles. So the tackles almost have them sideways. That to me screams run or design quarterback draws, especially if you utilize two tight ends and spread people out and get folks covering. I'm not saying it would be an Auburn situation, but depending on how things go, Stetson could be in for a big game, just running the ball potentially. I don't think you're going to see him run outside because Ohio State just has, in my opinion, too much speed um, on the edges. So I think if you do anything, you step up, and that's where you can be dangerous. Stetson's shown to me so far this year that he's grown to a level where he feels comfortable and he understands the context of the game and he can make those kind of plays. What are y'all's thoughts on that though? I mean, obviously we talk about all our skill position players, but what about Stetson? How much
Yeah,
do you game
Juan.
plan?
Yeah, Juan. What are your thoughts on Stetson Bennett, Juan? Wait,
No speaker Inglés.
No comprende, senor?
No, I think honestly, who do you stop? If you're a defensive coordinator, it's a nightmare. So I ran down those stats on Monday. There was a different leading rusher. Almost half of the half for three-fourths of the games. There was a different receiver that was leading. So you can best believe as a defensive coordinator, obviously you deal with that first person. You come in there thinking, okay, we got to stop Ladd McConkey, we got to stop Bowers, and guess what? They weren't statistically as great, and somebody else stepped up, and so it's a nightmare. It really, really is on what are you going to do? What is Georgia going to come out with? And that is the beauty of Monken's offense is, hey, just because this guy had an all-star breakout game and that's what you're game planning around, somebody else is going to kill you this week. And then it just, a ton. And so, it's just a tough deal, man. What do you do?
yeah, and I especially agree with that, with the fact that you're going to get the extra month to let A.D. Mitchell's ankle get back healthy, to let Arian Smith, who has been in some games, but really we haven't seen him in and pressing the ball downfield like kind of is his MO. You Ohio State, I mean, I'm not saying you're going to hold them like you did Oregon, but Ohio State's staring down possibly the healthiest Georgia offense since Oregon played. I mean, you know how that went. I mean, it was 7 straight touchdowns, 7 straight drives. Not saying that that'll be the case either, but all of a sudden, all this year, when you've been talking about, oh, we don't have someone. I mean, if you line up A.D. Mitchell, Arian Smith, Ladd McConkey, and then you have Brock Bowers or Darnell Washington at tight end, and then you have Kenny McIntosh in the backfield. I mean, just pick who you're gonna cover. That because it can go to any of the 5 guys, and then like we've said, you can, if you rush incorrectly at Stetson, he can be that 6th guy. Now, is he going to kill you constantly with his legs? No, but he can use them just enough that if you think you're going to run, man coverage all the way downfield and the rush lanes break down, he can run for 15 yards, slide down, on to the next play. Just that is hard to stop consistently.
To your point, though, you also it forces you defensively to allocate more resources in the sense of maybe a spy, right? Make the in-game adjustment to put a spy on Stetson Bennett, which then opens you up. How do you can't double team everybody, right? If you're double teaming somebody that's been effective, so you sit there, you look at the spy, right? Then that leaves maybe Kenny McIntosh out of the backfield, right? If you're spying from and I don't know if it's necessarily a Mike, but it might be your maybe a Will type guy, placed on your spy for your quarterback. That opens up a tight end possibly. That opens up like I said, Kenny McIntosh or one of our running backs. Which I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna make a prediction now. I believe the angle route out of the backfield could be a death blow to this Ohio State defense. I just think so. We have Adonis in the chat. We got it. So he's got a comment here that I think we need to ask this question to Juan. So at the barbershop, Juan, do you say just a little off the top, leave the sides?
No, I mean the top is already gone, so I'll just tell them to take a little bit off the sides.
So to answer that, Adonis at the barbershop, Adonis at the barbershop saying, "How about them Gators?" Speak now, Adonis. Speak now. We know it's true. Hold on. Don't break the U. Don't break the U. Don't break the U because you know that's his second team.
Oh
Stop
yeah,
talking.
that's right.
Don't do that to him. Don't do that to him. We can't hurt his feelings like any other Florida fan. You just hurt their feelings over anything.
You say, "Wow."
Oh, we're taking
Those one of
shots.
the long ones. Wow.
Surprise everybody! Surprise everybody!
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas!
I can't say that, but there is a Friday After Next reference.
Yes. Picky.
Welcome to Buckeyes. He about had me. But no, so if I'm looking from Ohio State defensively, I'm going to go ahead and make my prediction first. I'm going to get y'all's thoughts. If I'm looking at an X factor for Ohio State, I think you need JTT, right? JT Tumaloa, to have the game of the season, if not the game of his career, to really make an impact in this game. The dude can play. I mean, we saw it against Penn State. My man was a solo defense.
I was about to say he needs to have a game like he had against Penn State.
That dude was making plays left and right, forcing turnover. It was honestly from an outsider's viewpoint on that was a very impressive performance that game. One, if you had to choose an X factor for this Ohio State defense, who are you looking out for? Obviously, in regards to, if from a Georgia perspective, who are you worried about? I'm going to put this.
Just two of them, the Steele and Eichenberg. Just going around, just being aggressive, and not being touched. We got to get to that second level and put some hands on them. If not, they're going to have a big game, making some plays and kind of shutting down our running game, and then forcing us to throw the ball. And just like Kobe said earlier, anytime that Georgia's throwing the ball over 35 times, Kirby's 1-5, and that's not what we want to do. We don't want to get ourselves into where we're having to throw the ball a lot. I mean, if you actually look at that Missouri game as well, Missouri forced us to throw the ball a lot, and that was a struggle. We did not look like ourselves.
Some news while we're still doing it. Smoke Bowie from Texas A&M has entered the transfer portal. I know a lot of people are entering transfer portal from Texas A&M these days, but he's from Bainbridge, Georgia, which is down here near me. And then
KTG's country right there.
Also,
not even Kirby country. That's KTG country. So, I think that's a big deal.
An interesting one to keep an eye on. I think he has had some troubles maybe off the field a little bit, even in high school.
I think that's an environmental thing too. But was that now? At the same time, I'm not going to sit here and completely bash any kid for being a kid. But was that stemming from his time at A&M, or was that beforehand?
Well, I know Kirby wanted to get him into Georgia, wanted him to early enroll, and wanted to kind of get him out of hometown. Not a lot to do in a hometown, but don't know really the culture.
I mean, when you surround yourself with Tokyo Drift down there, and
don't be surprised though. Colorado could be on his radar. He was pretty close with Nick Williams.
I was about to say Nick Williams was an X factor there.
Yeah, and I think Nick Williams, who landed him over at Texas A&M, so not sure if he would go all the way to Colorado, but I would imagine he is still pretty good friends with him.
Well, yeah, I was about to say because when his recruitment in high school, him and Marquise Gross Killebrew, when Nick Williams left, they went with him. So, Nick Williams going to Colorado. Listen, I think also going under Prime, as much as we want to sit there and have your thoughts about Prime, I think his no nonsense approach to things when it comes to handling the game could be a good thing for Smoke, in my opinion. And that's what I believe, right? Because when you go to a team and the culture like A&M and what it was basically on full display for the public to see, that's the antithesis of what Colorado and Coach Prime is the antithesis of that, right? Georgia's the same way, right? Get him into a situation where he's more structured, more disciplined, more accountability, so that you avoid any concerns about that. But I think the kid can be a damn good player for sure. I'm sure Georgia's going to kind of spin some tires there to. It just makes sense. He was a Georgia commit, right? He's a Georgia commit, so I think you probably just spin the tires to see that gauge the interest if anything. But it's definitely worth noting. Thank you there for the news break. South Georgia thumbs down. Oh man. Hey Juan, how funny would it be if we got Adonis and KTG and have a north south battle like a civil war of Georgia?
Yeah.
You think? I think that'd be very interesting,
Oh
honestly.
yeah.
But no, so obviously we talked about these defenses, but I'm gonna leave y'all with this. This is a Georgia podcast, so we're not gonna end on Ohio State talk. We will talk about some vulnerabilities in this defense, though. The lack of physicality should open up the run game, especially for 4 quarters. We know how this is. It should open up the run game, and you look at a guy, a healthy Kendall Milton, could have a ridiculous game. I mean, hell, what against LSU, he ran the ball 8 times and had 113 yards, I think it was. Is that right?
Yeah.
So, I
He had a
mean,
good day.
Adonis. All right, so Adonis says South Georgia is just extended Florida. I thought you were from South Georgia then, because you all about Florida. You fit right in. Fit right in. But I think that so we talked about the physicality, but the size, right? We talked about this Monday. Georgia's perimeter blocking, you could see it on full display, honestly, because of just the lack of size, right? Just the lack of size in that back, the secondary and some of the linebackers are actually a little bit undersized as well. Definitely the cornerbacks and the safeties. They don't look that thick. They don't look big and bulky like you would think. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. Um, Adonis coming in guns a blazing. I'm calling you out, Buford boy.
Yeah, I have to side with Adonis on this one. Buford all day.
So he's
West
calling
side.
me out, saying I'm not even from the South. Bro, listen, I eat my biscuits with gravy on them. That counts as the South to me. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. No sugar in my grits. I guarantee you, he's cream of wheat. He don't eat oatmeal. He's cream of wheat. What is sweet tea?
Man, sweet tea is fantastic.
Oh, it most definitely is. But when you're from up north, like Black Adonis, ugh, get that kind of feel to it. All their
That
defenses kind of looks like Adonis undersized. Oh no.
that's actually the worst part about visiting my wife's family in Pennsylvania is you go up there and
He said he's a bigger lineman.
I call bullshit on that. I call bullshit. Immediately calling bullshit on that. Now, what were you saying, Kobe, before you were so rudely interrupted?
I was just talking about the sweet tea comment. Is one of the worst things about visiting my wife's family in PA is that it just isn't a thing at all, and you wonder why those people have seasonal depression.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. I came back from deployment, and we'll end it on this. When I came back from deployment, when I got back to the States, we stopped in Baltimore, and I went to McDonald's. And this is how you can tell you from up north. One, sweet tea, air quotes, tastes like shit. Two, no gravy biscuits. Three, the accents. The accents. Adonis, that's bullshit. You ain't 6'5", 250, is he? Is he though?
Yeah, he's a big cat, man.
Or he thick with 2 C's in. What you trying to say?
Yeah, he's not small, and you got to put on that weight too to be a quarterback. He plays quarterback up there too. So
Oh, so we a Cam Newton wannabe, huh?
yeah, it's kind of like
Maybe actually, now he ain't a wannabe. He's better than Cam Newton. How much you want to bet? Came from Florida. That's why. You're a Florida fan. That's why. Nah, Kobe. I think he can grab something from the top shelf for you for real. Nah, man. Nah, this is actually a this is a Bojangles beer.
it's
It's just
a
always
it's a,
bow top.
it's a sew in. Robert got a sew scam Newton.
Nah, this beard. Yeah, this is luscious beard. I don't even know. Can Adonis even grow a beard? That's the question. JOGG comes in, chiming in, and says, I can climb those shelves and grab stuff. She can climb it. Keyword climb it. It's a stool step. Step stool, yeah?
Here it comes.
Oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. He kept the laptop, by the way, too.
Oh yeah.
He kept the laptop. Guys, before Black Adonis sabotages the show completely, we can continue to go on and banter with Adonis. But I think it's time to wrap this thing up and get ready for the weekend. And
Where does
next
Adonis
week,
play?
In Minnesota, the team is called the Minnesota Freeze. So he's supposed
hold
to.
on, I know. Hold on, if he's from Minnesota,
He's
he
not
say
from
he
Minnesota.
says he's from North Georgia, but my man living and playing up in Minnesota.
He graduated from Buford, though. He, like I said,
Yeah.
he's a Georgia boy through and through. But so he's supposed to send a schedule at some point in time. But I do want to go out there and check him out.
So he's done with college as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what you're saying is he has an apartment or something up north, right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Sounds like a northerner to me. Sounds like a northerner to me. Well, I'm from Minnesota. Is that how they say it? Minnesota.
Can't take the
Sorry.
Georgia. Can't take the Georgia out of somebody that is.
Nah, I need to say. Nah, hold on. I gotta. I'm gonna pull this challenge. I need Adonis to spell Georgia the right way.
Georgia.
Next time he comes on, he can't do it. He'll be like Georgia. Nah, fam, it's Georgia. I know the Florida fan in you makes you don't want to say that, right? But nah, we challenging your Southern card right there. Say Georgia. Final thoughts on the defenses of both teams?
I'm just ready for this game to go ahead and get started, man.
Me too. I'm ready for just like bowl games to get started in general.
Friday.
I was thinking, I actually forgot to tell you quick enough, but I thought that we should have done like a full bowl game pick 'em.
Oh, oh my goodness, that'd be worth the whole episode there.
But
Adonis, practice. Hold on,
I'm going to win it anyway. So do you guys just want to just have your picks, or because
we talk about practice, Adonis. Practice.
Not a game.
Not a game. Practice.
I don't practice words off straight.
Yeah, we should do
Adonis, you should have been here earlier. I thought about that too. When you said JTT's name the first time, it was like earlier with or a few weeks ago with DJ when we were giving you hell about it.
I'm sorry. I have excellent pronunciation skills.
Excellent vernacular.
There you go. That's a top-notch word choice right there. God Almighty. Hey, Adonis, spell it. Anyways, next week, folks. Listen, we're taking Monday and Wednesday, and we're doing a heavy dose of early signing day. Obviously, let's just do this. If you're a recruiting fan, tune in next week. That's all I'm going to leave it there. Just leave it there.
And tune in Monday if I can talk Robert into letting us do this bowl game pick 'em.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. That would be great.
Oh man. Well, so what we'll do?
Honest, you can get in on it.
Don't do that.
And I'll win it again, but like I said, I'd be interested to see y'all's picks.
Hold on, you ready for this? Hold on, because we will not have a show before this. Adonis, we'll wait. Who's winning Florida versus Oregon State Saturday?
Ooh.
I'll wait. I think that's worth it.
It's got to be
Plausible.
Oregon State.
It's going to be Oregon State. Obviously, you know who he's going with, but Oregon State's going to win that one.
Yeah, I don't honestly though. I mean, they don't have.
You can give me that when I'm already 1-0.
Oh.
Yeah.
So for the record, he went with Oregon State. Oregon State.
That just means Florida will win now,
and he'll
just
come
because of that.
So Florida's going to
Out
win.
of spite.
Florida will win, and then come
He's
in.
doing the
come
Lee
in here
Corso thing. He's doing the Lee Corso thing.
No. That's Herb Street. That's Herb Street. Herb Street. But I get your point. No. So we're going to watch it. I guarantee you, Florida's going to win Saturday. And he's going to come in here beating his chest. I knew I got it right.
Friday, the Bahamas Bowl is Miami and UAB.
Wait, Miami?
Yeah, and UAB. That's
They made a bowl. They made a bowl?
Yeah. No, sorry, Miami of Ohio.
Oh, I was about to say,
Miami.
like, what? When did this happen? Oh, so here we go. Breaking news, folks. Black Adonis is in the transfer portal. Oh Jesus! I can't even pop that comment up.
Don't even read that one. But that's just for Adonis.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Yikes! Couldn't be my team. If it is my team, we got some problems.
Well, a few years ago, we had a little brush in with some issues.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's wrap this thing up, guys. Have a great weekend. Have a great start to the bowl season. Maybe we'll discuss. You know what? Maybe we'll do something where we might post it on socials. Maybe we can
have to put it in the chat. We're gonna have to put it in the chat because I've already picked like correct on like almost all these games, especially through Saturday. So I've already won it. So it's not even fun for us to even do anything.
Never say never.
One's gonna have the dual screens up, just researching.
Yes, sir. You already know.
Late to the show, but better late than never.
Bye, Rudes.
We're gonna wrap this thing up. Might look on the socials, by the way. I think we might set up a pick 'em and go from there. So we'll set something up. But with that being said, stick around. Tune in Monday if you're watching the show. Tuesday for podcast when you listen to next episode next week. Have a great day, folks. Have a great day. With that being said, go Dogs.
Go Dogs.